I met Blake at the worst possible time in my life, which turned out to be the best possible time for me. Maya had just turned 2, and her biological father had already bailed when he found out I was pregnant. Moved to some other state like the coward he was. I was working double shifts at the restaurant, barely scraping together rent money, and my babysitter had just quit without notice. That's when Blake walked into my life like some kind of knight in shining armor, except he was wearing a hockey jersey and carrying takeout from the Thai place next door. He was picking up food for his roommate who was too lazy to get it himself, and I was grabbing dinner after another exhausting shift. Maya was having a complete meltdown in her stroller, screaming about wanting goldfish crackers, and I was about ready to lose it right there in the parking lot. Blake just walked over and started making funny faces at her, got her laughing within 30 seconds. The man had magic with kids. I could see it immediately. "She's beautiful," he said, and actually meant it. Not like those guys who pretend to like your kid just to get in your pants. "How old is she?" 2 going on 20. I told him, and he laughed like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. We ended up talking in that parking lot for an hour, Maya completely content in her stroller, occasionally giggling at Blake's ridiculous voices. He was 24, worked in finance, played hockey on weekends, and owned his own place. Not renting, owning. I remember thinking, this is exactly what Maya and I need. Our first real date was at Chuck A. Cheese because he wanted Maya to come along. What kind of guy chooses Chuck E. Cheese for a first date? The kind who's serious about being part of both our lives. Apparently, he spent more money on tokens than I'd spent on groceries that week. Just watching Maya climb through those plastic tunnels and squeal with joy. When she fell asleep against his shoulder during the drive home, I knew I was going to marry this man. Blake moved us into his place after 6 months, and it was like stepping into a completely different life. Granite countertops, a washer and dryer that actually worked, a yard where Maya could play safely. He set up a whole bedroom just for her, painted it pink and everything, bought her a toddler bed shaped like a castle. Maya started calling him daddy before I even suggested it, and Blake just melted every single time. The next few years were honestly perfect, or as perfect as life gets when you're raising a toddler. Blake was incredible with Maya, never once made her feel like she wasn't his real daughter. He went to every preschool play, every doctor's appointment, taught her how to ride a bike and tie her shoes. Financially, we were solid too. Blake handled all the bills, never made me stress about money, bought Maya whatever she needed, and plenty of things she just wanted. I could finally breathe for the first time since becoming a mother. When Maya turned 7, Blake started talking about marriage more seriously. We discussed it before, but now he was ready to make it official. Wanted to give Maya the stability of a real family. He proposed on Maya's 8th birthday, right there in front of all her friends at her party. Got down on one knee and asked both of us. Maya was jumping up and down, screaming, "Say yes, Mommy, say yes." And all the other parents were tearing up watching this sweet moment. The ring was gorgeous. Way more than I'd expected. Probably cost him 3 months' salary. Planning the wedding was like living in a fairy tale. Blake insisted on paying for everything. Wanted it to be perfect for both Maya and me. $20,000 he spent, and never once complained about the cost. Maya was going to be our flower girl. Had her little dress picked out and everything. We booked the venue, sent out invitations to over 100 people, planned this amazing reception with a DJ and an open bar. Blake was so excited, talking about our honeymoon and how Maya would have a real dad, legally, not just emotionally, but the closer we got to the wedding, the more trapped I started feeling. Not trapped by Blake exactly, but by the routine, the predictability of it all. Every morning was the same, Blake making his protein shake, Maya wanting pancakes, everyone rushing to get ready for work and school. Every evening was homework help and dinner and Netflix. Maybe a walk around the neighborhood, if we were feeling adventurous. Blake was content with this life. Happy even, but I was only 28. Was this really it for me? Suburban mom life, with a man who got excited about organizing his sock drawer. The Friday before our wedding, Blake's friends wanted to take him out for one last hurrah as a single guy. Nothing crazy, just some drinks and hanging out, and they invited me and my friends to join. We started at our place, everyone pre-gaming and getting loose before hitting the town. Ricky was there, Blake's friend from way back. This runner guy who was always flirting with everyone, but never seriously. He was small compared to Blake, maybe 5'6" and skinny, but he had this energy about him. This excitement that Blake used to have, but had lost somewhere along the way. We went to the hookah lounge first, then hit a couple bars downtown. Ricky kept making me laugh, telling these ridiculous stories about his dating disasters, and I found myself gravitating toward him throughout the night. Blake was being his usual responsible self, monitoring how much everyone was drinking, checking his phone for Maya updates from the babysitter, When we got back to the apartment with Ricky and another couple, Blake was already talking about winding down, getting some sleep before the big weekend ahead. The other couple left pretty quickly, but Ricky lingered, and I wasn't exactly encouraging him to go. Blake decided we needed more beer and offered to make a run to the store. Asked if anyone wanted to come with him. I said I was too tired, and Ricky claimed he was too drunk to be helpful. The second Blake's car pulled out of the driveway. Something shifted in the air between Ricky and me. "You nervous about Sunday?" he asked, moving closer to me on the couch. "Terrified," I admitted, and suddenly his hand was on my knee, and I didn't move it away. "Blake's a lucky guy," he said, but the way he said it implied maybe Blake didn't deserve his luck. We started kissing before I'd even made a conscious decision about it, and then my shirt was off and Ricky's hands were everywhere, and for the first time in months, I felt alive. Felt wanted in a way that had nothing to do with being someone's responsible fiancé or Maya's mom. This was just about me, about being desired for who I was, not what I provided. Blake's key in the front door sobered me up instantly, but not quickly enough. He walked into the living room with his friend Mike right behind him, and there I was, topless on top of Ricky. Both of us scrambling to look normal when nothing about this could ever look normal. The silence lasted forever. Blake just stood there holding a case of beer, staring at us like he couldn't process what he was seeing. Mike took one look at the situation and immediately stepped back toward the hallway, probably wishing he'd stayed in the car. "What the hell is this?" Blake finally said, his voice completely flat. Ricky was trying to put his shirt back on and simultaneously slide out from under me, muttering apologies that meant absolutely nothing. I grabbed my top and held it against my chest, my mind racing for something to say that could possibly make this okay. "Blake, I can explain," I started, but honestly, what explanation was there? Explain what exactly? His voice was getting louder now, and I could see his hands starting to shake. Explain why my fiancé is half naked with my friend 4 days before our wedding. Ricky finally got his shirt on and stood up, holding his hands out like Blake was a wild animal he needed to calm down. "Look, man, this just happened. We didn't plan anything. We were just talking," and Blake dropped the beer case and punched Ricky square in the face before he could finish his sentence. Ricky stumbled backward into the coffee table, blood starting to pour from his nose, and Blake hit him again, this time in the stomach. Ricky doubled over, gasping, and Mike jumped forward to grab Blake's arms. "Blake, stop. He's not worth it," Mike was saying, trying to hold back all 6'2", 220 pounds of furious hockey player. "Get him out of here," Blake said, his voice deadly calm now, which was somehow more terrifying than the yelling, "Get him out," before I really heard him. Ricky was holding his nose, blood dripping onto our carpet, looking around frantically for his keys. "Blake, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen. You have 30 seconds to get out of my house before I call your brother to come scrape you off my floor," Blake said. Ricky practically ran for the door, still bleeding, leaving his jacket behind in his rush to escape. Mike followed him out, probably to make sure Blake didn't change his mind about letting him leave in one piece. Then it was just Blake and me in our living room, me still clutching my shirt. Both of us breathing hard for completely different reasons. "Put your shirt on?" Blake said without looking at me. I got dressed quickly, my hands shaking so badly I could barely manage the buttons. Blake walked to the kitchen and came back with a towel, started cleaning up Ricky's blood from the carpet like this was just another household chore. "Blake, please, can we talk about this?" "Talk about what?" "Shantae, talk about how you were screwing my friend in our living room 4 days before our wedding. Talk about how I just spent $20,000 on a party to celebrate our love while you were planning to cheat on me. It wasn't planned. It just happened. I swear. We were drinking, and I was nervous about the wedding, and it didn't mean anything." He looked up at me then, and I'd never seen him look at anyone the way he was looking at me, like I was something disgusting he'd found stuck to his shoe. "It didn't mean anything," he repeated. "Our relationship didn't mean anything. Our wedding doesn't mean anything. Maya watching her mom marry her dad doesn't mean anything. That's not what I meant. And, it..." Blake stood up and walked to our bedroom, came back with something in his closed fist. He grabbed my left hand and yanked off my engagement ring, the beautiful ring he'd saved up months to buy. "The wedding is off," he said. "Blake, you're being dramatic. People make mistakes. Couples work through things. We can get counseling. We can figure this out." I said the wedding is off. Shantae. He pulled out his phone and started dialing. It was almost midnight, but he was calling someone anyway. "Who are you calling?" "Your parents? They should probably hear this from us before they hear it from someone else." My parents arrived within an hour, still in their pajamas, completely confused about why Blake had called them in the middle of the night saying there was an emergency. When Blake explained what they'd walked in on, My mom immediately went into defense mode. Blake. Honey, people get cold feet before weddings, she said, sitting down next to me on the couch and rubbing my back. Shantae's been under so much stress with the planning and work. And Maya. Sometimes people make poor decisions when they're overwhelmed. This wasn't a poor decision. Linda? This was your daughter cheating on me in our home with my friend. My dad was trying to be the voice of reason, sitting forward in his chair with his hands clasped. Blake, we understand you're hurt and angry, and you have every right to be, but isn't it too late to cancel the wedding? All those people coming, all that money spent. The money doesn't matter, but it's $20,000. My mom pressed. And Maya's so excited about being the flower girl. And all our family is flying in from out of state. Maybe you two could postpone? Give yourself some time to work through this. But canceling completely seems so drastic. Blake looked at my parents like they'd grown second heads. You want me to marry your daughter after what happened tonight because it would be inconvenient to cancel. We want you to consider that good relationships are worth fighting for. My dad said, Shantae made a mistake. A big mistake. But she loves you and Maya. Don't throw away 6 years over one bad night. Why can't you just forgive her? My mom added, isn't that what love is supposed to be about? Blake systematically picked apart every argument they made, explained in detail why trust was fundamental to marriage, why he couldn't spend his life wondering what I was doing every time he left the house. He was calm and articulate and absolutely unmovable. The wedding was freaking off. Period. By morning, he was on the phone canceling everything. The venue, the caterer, the DJ, the flowers, all of it. Most of the deposits were non-refundable, so he was out almost the full $20,000. But he didn't seem to care. He called the hotel and canceled our honeymoon. He called his family and my family and started working through the list of 120 guests, explaining that the wedding was off due to personal reasons. I kept trying to talk to him, to get him to reconsider, but it was like talking to a wall. He'd made his decision, and nothing I said was going to change it. When I started crying and begging, he just looked at me with those cold eyes and called me a cheating biznatch. Said I should have thought about consequences before I decided to betray him. Maya was at my sister's house for the weekend, so she didn't witness the immediate aftermath. But she was going to have to be told that the wedding was off, that Blake wasn't going to be her legal daddy after all. That conversation was going to break her heart. And for what? A few minutes of excitement with Ricky that I couldn't even remember clearly through the alcohol haze. 2 months later, Blake lost his job when his entire division got laid off, and suddenly our stable life wasn't so stable anymore. He fell into this deep depression, spending days on the couch in his pajamas, barely speaking to Maya or me. The man who used to wake up early to make Mickey Mouse pancakes for Maya was now sleeping until noon and ordering pizza for dinner every night. He'd go days without showering, weeks without shaving, and when Maya would try to climb on his lap for cuddles, he'd just pat her head absently and go back to staring at his phone. I was working extra shifts to cover expenses while Blake collected unemployment and sent out resumes that never got responses. Maya kept asking why Daddy was so sad all the time, why he didn't want to play with her anymore. And I didn't know how to explain that sometimes adults go through difficult periods. I was dealing with Blake's mood swings, Maya's confusion, and my own guilt about the wedding disaster. And I was supposed to just pretend everything was fine. That's when Marcus started paying attention to me at work. He was new to the restaurant. This charming guy who always had something funny to say during our shifts together. When I was having a particularly bad day dealing with Blake's depression, Marcus would find little ways to cheer me up, bring me coffee or tell me jokes during our breaks. He actually listened when I talked, actually cared about how I was feeling, which was more than I could say for Blake lately. Marcus started texting me during his lunch breaks. Nothing inappropriate at first, just funny observations about our coworkers or complaints about difficult customers. But gradually the messages got more personal, more flirtatious. He'd tell me I looked beautiful even after a double shift, or that he looked forward to working with me. When's the last time Blake had said anything like that? I couldn't even remember. The texting led to longer conversations during work, which led to meeting for coffee on our days off, which led to Marcus telling me how unhappy I seemed at home, how I deserved someone who appreciated me. Blake was so wrapped up in his own problems that he barely noticed I was gone, barely noticed anything about Maya or me anymore. When Marcus kissed me in the parking lot after one of our coffee dates, I didn't stop him. When he suggested we get a hotel room, I didn't say no. For a few hours, I felt like myself again, felt attractive and interesting and valued. Marcus thought I was amazing, thought Blake was an idiot for taking me for granted, thought I deserved so much better than a depressed guy who couldn't even be bothered to shower regularly. The affair went on for months, and I got careless about hiding it. Marcus would send me these outrageous messages during the day, telling me exactly what he wanted to do to me, and I'd text back equally explicit responses. It was exciting. This secret life I had that had nothing to do with Blake's depression, or Maya's needs or household responsibilities. This was just about me and what I wanted for once. Blake found the messages on a Tuesday afternoon while I was in the shower. I'd left my phone on the kitchen counter, and Maya had been trying to show him some video on it, when Marcus's latest text popped up on the screen. By the time I got out of the bathroom, Blake was sitting at the kitchen table with my phone in his hands, reading through months of conversations. "Who's Marcus?" he asked, his voice completely flat again. Just like that night with Ricky, there was no point in lying when he had all the evidence right there in black and white. "He's someone I work with." "Someone you work with?" Blake repeated, scrolling through more messages. "Someone you work with who wants to, quote, bend you over his kitchen counter, and who you've been meeting at the Marriott every Thursday for the past 2 months." I sat down across from him, trying to figure out how to explain this in a way that wouldn't destroy everything again. "Blake, you've been so depressed lately, so distant. We barely talk anymore. We never do anything together. You hardly even acknowledge that Maya and I exist. So you decided to cheat on me again. It's not the same as the Ricky thing. This time, there were real problems in our relationship, real issues we weren't addressing." Blake set my phone down and looked at me with that same disgusted expression from 2 years ago. "How long? A few months? How long?" Shante. "Since March?" He was quiet for a long time, just staring at the phone screen, occasionally scrolling through more messages. Maya was in the living room watching cartoons, completely oblivious to the fact that her world was about to fall apart again. "I'm done," Blake said finally. "What do you mean you're done?" "I mean, I'm done with this relationship. Done with you. Done pretending like we can make this work when you clearly don't want it to work." "Blake, we can get through this. Couples therapy? Whatever you want. I'll quit my job. I'll cut off all contact with Marcus. I'll do whatever it takes. You'll do whatever it takes now. After you've been cheating for months, where was this motivation to save our relationship when you were sneaking around behind my back? I was trying to deal with your depression, and Maya's needs, and my own loneliness. And I made some bad choices. But that doesn't mean we can't fix this. I can't trust you. Shante? I can't trust you not to cheat on me again the next time I go through a difficult period. Or the next time you feel neglected. Or the next time some guy pays attention to you. I can't live my life wondering what you're doing every time you leave the house. So you're just going to give up. You're going to abandon Maya because you can't forgive me. I'm not abandoning Maya. I'm leaving you. There's a difference, but there wasn't a difference. Not really. Because Maya and I were a package deal. If Blake left me, he was leaving both of us. And Maya was going to be devastated. The only father she'd ever known was about to disappear from her life because I'd made some mistakes. Blake moved out that week, took only his clothes and personal items, left everything else behind. Maya kept asking where Daddy was going, why he was packing his suitcase. When he was coming back, Blake would just hug her and tell her he loved her. But he couldn't give her any real answers because how do you explain adult relationship problems to an 8-year-old? The day he left, Maya stood at the front window crying, watching Blake load his car with his belongings. She kept running to the door, asking if she could help him pack. If she could come with him? If he was moving to a bigger house where she could have her own swimming pool? Blake would just hug her tighter and tell her to be good for Mommy. But he wouldn't promise to call or visit or see her again. After Blake drove away, Maya asked me when Daddy was coming home, and I had to explain that he wasn't coming home. That sometimes grown-ups can't live together anymore. But that didn't mean he didn't love her. She cried for hours, kept asking what she'd done wrong, why Daddy didn't want to live with us anymore. I texted Blake constantly those first few days, sending him pictures of Maya crying, telling him how heartbroken she was, begging him to at least maintain some kind of relationship with her even if he didn't want to see me. Maya didn't deserve to lose her father because of problems between Blake and me. Blake never responded to any of my messages, never called to check on Maya, never showed any sign that he cared about what his abandonment was doing to her. The man who used to read her bedtime stories every night just vanished from her life like she'd never mattered to him at all. 3 weeks after Blake left, he finally agreed to meet with Maya one last time. He wouldn't come to the house, wouldn't meet anywhere I might be, so I had to drop Maya off at a park and wait in the car while they talked. I watched from a distance as Blake knelt down to Maya's level, holding her hands while she cried and begged him to come home. When Maya got back in the car, she was sobbing harder than I'd ever seen her cry. Blake had told her this would be the last time she would ever see him, that he had to move to a different country and would never come back. He told her that if she wanted to make him happy, she had to be good to her mom and remember that he would always love her even though he couldn't be her daddy anymore. Maya spent the rest of that day in her room, wouldn't eat dinner, wouldn't talk to me about what Blake had said. She'd lost the only father she'd ever known. And I was the one who had to pick up the pieces of her broken heart while dealing with my own guilt about causing this whole mess. Months later, I found out through mutual friends that Blake hadn't moved to a different country at all. He'd gotten a job offer in another state and started over completely. New city, new life, no traces of Maya or me anywhere. He'd lied to an 8-year-old about moving to another country because he couldn't handle the possibility of her trying to contact him someday. Maya still asks about Blake sometimes, still wonders if he's happy in his new country, still hopes that maybe someday he'll come back to visit her. She doesn't understand that Blake chose to erase us from his life completely, that he decided his own emotional well-being was more important than maintaining any kind of relationship with a little girl who called him daddy for 6 years. I'm left dealing with the aftermath of Blake's abandonment, watching Maya struggle with feelings of rejection and confusion while trying to rebuild our lives without him. The man who promised to always be there for her, who legally wanted to adopt her and give her his name, just walked away when things got complicated. Maya and I are better off without someone so selfish and unforgiving in our lives. But try explaining that to an 8-year-old who just wants her daddy to come home.